Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Cherry Blossom. Today we are going to explore the different periods of British poetry. From its early beginnings to the modern age, we'll take a step-by-step journey that's simple, clear, and easy to remember. Before we begin, let's quickly understand the purpose of this video. First, it will give you a historical understanding of British poetry, right from its origins to modern times. Second, it will help you practice close reading, analysis, and criticism in a simple way, with point-by-point explanation. And third, it will connect poetry with the social, political, and literary movements of each age. So by the end of this lesson, you'll not only know the poets and periods, but also the world in which their poetry was created. Guys, firstly we understand the medieval period of British poetry, which runs roughly from the 5th century to the 15th century. This was the time before the Renaissance, when society was mostly feudal, kings, landlords, and peasants, and the church had the biggest influence on people's lives. The poetry of this age was often oral, sung or told in gatherings. The language slowly moved from Old English to Middle English. The main themes you'll notice are religion, morality, chivalry, courtly love, and allegories, all teaching lessons of life. The popular forms were ballads, morality plays, and allegorical poems. The shining star of this period is Geoffrey Chaucer, often called the father of English poetry, famous for the Canterbury Tales. Overall, medieval poetry feels like stories in verse, full of imagery, moral lessons, and the spirit of faith and tradition. Next, we come to the Renaissance period of British poetry, which lasted through the 16th and early 17th century. This was the great age of art, discovery, and humanism, when Europe was looking back at the ideas of ancient Greece and Rome. In England, it was also the time of the Elizabethan culture, full of theatre, music, and literature. The main themes of Renaissance poetry were humanism, love, beauty, politics, religion, and the value of individual experience. The poets of this age believed in celebrating human life and exploring deep emotions. Popular forms included the sonnet, blank verse, and the very striking metaphysical poetry, which used clever comparisons and intellectual depth. The shining names here are William Shakespeare, with his famous sonnets and dramatic poetry, John Donne, master of metaphysical style, witty, bold, and complex, Andrew Marvell, and Edmund Spenser, author of the epic poem The Faerie Queene. In short, Renaissance poetry is full of rich metaphors, experiments with form, and a strong human-centered outlook. Lines that rhyme, neat and polished. Another form was the mock epic, where big epic style was used to describe small or silly events. The leading poets were John Dryden, known for his sharp satire and use of heroic couplets, and Alexander Pope, who wrote witty and polished works like The Rape of the Lock. In short, neoclassical poetry was all about being balanced, logical, and well-structured, often copying the style of great classical writers like Horace and Virgil. Now we enter the beautiful world of Romantic poetry, which began around 1798 and lasted till the early 1830s. This age came as a reaction against the strict rules and logic of the neoclassical period. Romantic poets believed that heart is greater than head. They celebrated nature, imagination, emotions, freedom, and even the supernatural. Instead of society's rules, they focused on the individual and personal feelings. The common forms were lyrical poems and odes, written in a free and emotional style. The great stars of this age were William Wordsworth, who wrote about simple life and nature, like Tintern Abbey, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who mixed mystery and supernatural in works like The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, John Keats, with his sensuous odes like Ode to a Nightingale, Percy Bysshe Shelley, revolutionary and passionate in Ode to the West Wind, and Lord Byron, known for his powerful and adventurous verse. So overall, Romantic poetry is all about feelings, nature, and imagination, a poetry that speaks directly to the heart. Next comes the Victorian period of British poetry, which lasted during the reign of Queen Victoria, from 1837 to 1901. This was a time of great progress in industry, science, and society, but it also brought confusion and doubt about faith and traditional values. The themes of this age often show a struggle between faith and doubt, love and loss, progress and morality. Poets tried to balance human emotions with the challenges of a fast-changing world. The common forms were the dramatic monologue, where a single speaker reveals thoughts and feelings, and the elegy, which reflects sorrow and loss. Famous poets of this age include Alfred Lord Tennyson, with works like In Memoriam that deal with grief and hope, Robert Browning, master of the dramatic monologue in poems like My Last Duchess, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, known for her romantic sonnets, and Matthew Arnold, whose poem Dover Beach beautifully shows the conflict between faith and doubt. In short, Victorian poetry is serious and thoughtful, full of moral reflection, struggles of belief, and the realities of modern life. Finally, we reach modern poetry, which developed in the 20th century, especially after the two world wars. This was a time of uncertainty, disillusionment, and rapid change in society. Poets no longer followed the old rules. They experimented with free verse, new styles, and bold ideas. The themes of modern poetry include war and destruction, loneliness, doubt, search for meaning, and the struggles of modern life. At the same time, poets also celebrated personal identity, freedom, and innovation. The forms were very different. Free verse, imagism, symbolism, and experimental techniques replaced the traditional rhyme and rhythm. Some of the greatest modern poets are T.S. Eliot, with works like The Waste Land that reflect the broken spirit of modern times, W.B. Yeats, who mixed myth, symbolism, and nationalism, W.H. Auden, who wrote on politics and human struggles, and many others who broke away from the past to create new voices. So, modern poetry is all about experimentation, realism, and expressing the complex emotions of modern life. So friends, this was a quick journey through the different periods of British poetry, from the religious and moral world of the medieval age, to the beauty of Renaissance, the order of the neoclassical period, the emotions of romantic poetry, the seriousness of the Victorian age, and finally the experiments of modern poetry. Each age reflects not just poems, but the mindset and culture of the people living in that time. Together, they show us how English poetry has grown and changed across centuries. I hope this explanation made the topic easier and interesting for you. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more such simple and clear lessons. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.